Have any questions? I want to make sure we go ahead and get some questions in just in case. Yeah, I kind of like that. Like, I could see a lot of uses. I mean, not for this specifically, but for the hierarchical LOD change like that, where it's like, oh, and as you get closer, whoop, that comes into existence. And then this is just cool, even though I don't know why the pivot is way over here, but these are all way over here. Don't need a teleport. So basically, if something needs to be built manually, something organic, HISM is not the tool for the job. It just depends on what you're looking for. If you're looking for something that has a bit more randomization, or you want to kind of control where you paint it without having to deal with messing with a lot of values and variables, then I would probably suggest either the painting foliage or the procedural foliage volume. It for yeah, exactly. If you really love trying to do randomization through mathematics, this is the perfect answer. If you want to significantly reduce draw calls to the point that they're pretty much non-existent, this is a good answer, but it's going to require a lot of math. Or or you do randomization, but randomization can be very tricky unless you do a like random int and range from stream, and then you can choose which randomized stream you like, and then just save those values. I was gonna say something and then I lost it. So I guess yeah, it's all dependent on what you want. Like I know you said you're looking at doing caves and stuff like that. What is your end goal? Is the question I would ask you at this point. Is your end goal to have a procedurally generated area in which you're like doing an endless runner through a cave, at which point I would tell you no, foliage is probably not the best option. I would go with something more along this line, or spawning in, like splines that have a specific set that you can randomize a little bit. If your goal is to have a scene where you're doing like full on level design and you're wanting it to actually be, like preset, then this could work. If you want to use dynamic lighting, you're going to pretty much have to use foliage, because this really won't help you. Just making old school level using Infinity Blade assets. In that case, if you want to use flat static lighting, this is not a bad option. If you want to use dynamic lighting, you're pretty much going to have to go with foliage, which is it's going to be the better option in the long run, simply because it gives you more options and more control. I mean, what I did there with the 8 points, that's because I wanted a very specific thing where I wanted it to have 8 points in a circle, which was cool. It actually worked. It'll be static. Then let me see here. Oops. Can you set this to static? Yes, you can set foliage mode to static, so that is not going to be a problem. And as you can see, like if I do this and I select this, this is still all one big chunk. Kind of cool, huh? And this already does a lot of the things that what you were wanting for the hierarchical instance mesh. It already does a lot of that. It already conforms to a flat or to a surface, changes the value based on what you want. It already lowers the draw calls because it's an individual component. Plus, it has LODs that you can implement to it. For instance, if I wanted to go and grab shape tube, oops, cancel. Let's get rid of this. Let's boop. Yes. So let's say I want shape tube, right? These are already to the point that they do the changes. Can you stack up meshes? No. That that you would have to actually do hierarchical meshes. This is all for like flat surfaces, stuff like that. You could, you could, if you wanted to do that kind of less often, like not just dump a bunch of rocks on it, but like, let's say you wanted to have a situation where you had this one, and then, boop, there you go. Like, if you placed individual actors that were actually in the level and then painted over them with foliage, it would work. So that could work. Or, I mean, you could do a combination of both where you have a couple of like presets and then you do the foliage sweep over it. And that way you could do a little bit of the math, have a couple placed out already, and then make it look more organic as you go. Um, Actually, that could be really interesting. Um, I wonder if, how well that would work. Okay, so I'm gonna go. I'm curious about something now. HISMC. So let me drag this out. Set this to 4500. Boop, you're already way out here. Set the radius to 500. Set the value to 20. Boom. Okay, so got this. Oops. I imagine just building out a mountain using same rock, but scaling, rotating, moving it around, and then just turning it into hierarchical instance mesh components. Um, I mean, it probably you probably could, but I don't know exactly how. And most likely it would take a little bit of work. Simply because, like, the landscape tool right now, it does have certain limitations. Like, you can't build cave systems in it. You can't do like overhangs and stuff like that, which makes it a little bit more difficult. A lot of that could be controlled with materials and simply adding a couple static meshes. A lot of that could be things like the hierarchical instance mesh component thing. You could do something like that. It would just take some math and take some putting it together. And unfortunately, one of the parts of the job is just sometimes you got to get in the nuts and bolts. It sucks, but it's one of those things. Trust me, math is not my favorite subject at all. I'm getting more used to it, and I'm getting to enjoy it more, simply because it can do stuff like this, where, oh look, like if I had placed that by hand, it would not nearly look as good because it's not exact. This is like mathematically correct, so it looks nicer. Um, if that, I hope that makes sense. Um, Maybe have a BP taking location rotation scale of already placed assets and replacing them with instances. That you could do, and that's actually for that game I was talking about. One of the things we did, I was the level designer for our team, And what I did, we had this floor grid, and so it was 100 by 100 or a 10 by 10 grid. So it ended up being 100 units, and we ended up scaling it to like 300 later, but that was too big. And what I would do is the floor was supposed to move, and each level had different blocks that were up and different blocks that were down. And so what I did was I went through and I created a whole bunch of instance meshes where I wanted them, right? And then I had another set that was actually the physical meshes that were not instanced, so that when I was doing the moving portion, it would hide the instance mesh and then move up and down as needed. So basically, you got this illusion, you actually got movement, but it was the illusion because it was actually just moving to where I already had instance meshes placed. And it was just literally going, hey, are you supposed to be up? Then go up. Are you supposed to be down? Then go down. So what you could do in that case is if you already had meshes placed, you could create a blutility or something that went through, got, like, let's say you had a mesh rock, right? Go through, find all of the actors that were mesh rock, and get their locations and rotations and save them into an array. Then what you do is you pass that array into your instance mesh component, do a for each loop for all of the rock values that you, or all of the rocks that you found, and then spawn an instance mesh, give it the same location and rotation. And that should theoretically remove your draw calls, as long as you destroy the previous static mesh and make sure that you don't leave yourself with a null value. I think. Always going to put that I think at the end because I don't want to guarantee that because I haven't tried it. The what I would do with the original meshes is I would actually no, destroy them. Once you have replaced them with an instance mesh in a construction script, just destroy it. It's not needed anymore. I mean, unless you're planning on doing something with it later, then just you have it automatically destroy the actor. It's removed from the level. It's not costing you any extra overhead. Your draw calls are exactly after the instances are placed. You destroy the. So what I would do, in all honesty, is I would save all of your instance, or I would save all of your regular static meshes into an array, and then once you were done getting the location and rotation of all of them, destroy them or clear the array out, or destroy the everything in the array and then clear it out. And I would have that set up to where it's kind of on a do once with a reset. That way you don't end up with a null value. Like, do once, run through the entire array, destroy everything, clear it out. Then if you select a new like let's say you select a new type of mesh that you're looking for, when you do that, have it reset. Oh, you want them to stay in the editor? Then yeah, just turn the visibility off. If you want them to stay in the editor, that's completely different. Um, then at that point, I would just destroy or I would just remove the visibility or turn it off rather. That way, they're out of the way. They're not costing you anything, but they still exist. I just thought you meant like once you've placed them, you're done with them. But yeah, if you still need them, absolutely. Excuse me. Sorry. Well, hopefully that made sense. It made sense in my brain. So if you try it and it does work, let me know. And if it doesn't work, let me know and I'll take a look again. Because I think that's actually pretty cool. Hmm. Oh, you did try it? Awesome. Awesome. Hopefully it worked. If it didn't work, well, sorry.